Welcome to another episode of Tolkien on Tap. I'm TJ, and this week I have Kelly from the Middle Page and Alita Mao. This is part one of Art and Nature in Middle Earth. Welcome to Tolkien on Tap. I've got Kelly and Alita here. Kelly, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. Well, thank you very much for having me. Honored to be here, and it's so cool to meet you and to interact face to face with both of you. I am Kelly. I go by the middle page on socials, and yeah, have loved Tolkien since I was a kid and loved it so much. I ended up studying it in my graduate studies and never really looked back. So being a part of this community has been a part of my adult life for quite a while now, and I love every minute of it. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. And what are you drinking tonight?
I have red wine. I believe it's Tall Dark Stranger, it's
Is it first,
called.
is it first stage wine?
Yes. And it better not shatter.
As long as Anatar doesn't come out of a forge, I think we'll be okay.
Do you have a fireplace?
I don't have a fireplace.
Okay,
I
good.
mean, I can just light a fire behind me if that is something that needs to be done. I
No, we
don't
have to
have a
protect the wine at all costs.
I don't have a
Mhm.
beautiful blonde elf who's actually a Maya, and I always do that. I did that with David and Lee, and I'm gonna do it again where I forget that the R is how you pluralize stuff. Anyways, I also have with me Alita, who is the artist who created the Tolkien on Tap logo. Alita, thank you very much. Tell us about yourself.
Hi. So I'm Alita Mao on social media, and I've also been known as Sticky Bibe in some of like the Tolkien Reddit verse and on Discord. And I'm on more sort of the fan art side of things. So I've done some work with Fellowship of Fans and the OneRing.net. And yeah, I've been a fan of Tolkien basically since Fellowship of the Ring came out in theaters, and I just like haven't looked back since then.
Nice. What are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking a mocktail called Fruity Surprise, so I have no idea.
Nice. Well, I mean, that is
Surprise
a
to
surprise.
everybody.
Yep.
Right, exactly. I'm just drinking shitty American lager tonight. Um, I didn't have time to get a new bottle of the Manos wine that I had on the other episode, but you know what? Whatever. It's just like but I'm gonna pretend it's some of the Gaffer's ale. So,
Love it.
so Ali, you said since the Fellowship came out, how old were you when Fellowship came out?
I was 11.
You were 11. Nice. What do you remember about going to the theater and seeing that?
Um, I didn't expect it to be as scary as it was. Like, I think like around that time Harry Potter had come out, and then I was like, "Oh, it's just gonna be fun." And then like I remember like Weathertop scared the crap out of me because it was like, "Oh my god, people actually get injured and Gandalf dies? What is this?"
Spoiler alert.
Oh, oops.
No, no, I'm kidding. The movie's what 20, it's like 24 years old right now. Almost 24 years old right now. But that's awesome. How many times did you see it in theater?
Uh,
I know you were 11, so you're
wait.
kind of beholden to your parents, but
Yeah, that was like probably once, and then like I was obsessed with it though, and I would like play around, and I'm like, I'm an elf, and I've got this stick, and I'm gonna like sword fight and stuff. And I asked for Lord of the Rings on the DVD for Christmas like that following year, and they got me the animated version. I was like so devastated.
the Rankin Bass or the
Yeah,
Bakshi?
because we had to wait like an entire year to like see it again, and I'm waiting and waiting. I'm like, my life is over.
Oh no, that's awesome though. And Kelly, you said you studied Tolkien.
Yeah,
That's
I
awesome.
also s we're very similar in ages. I was, like, 13 when the movies came out.
Mhm.
My dad read me the books, and I studied English literature, for my undergraduate. I love reading, I love books. How could you not when your dad reads you The Lord of the Rings when you're a kid? Um, and yeah, so I actually, studied with Signum University, which many people know, But yeah, it was 2011, and they were just starting out, and I took a leap, and because I was studying at a like traditional university for my graduate degree, and I was reading all this in Tolkien and fantasy, and I really wanted to study fantasy, and I think it's such a worthwhile field for study. And at the time, many universities weren't really batting an eye at it. Um, and I think that that has changed now and was probably in the process of changing. But I just kind of thought this is sort of a no brainer, and it's not really the traditional route that I thought I would do. But I loved every second of it. So I studied modern fantasy, Tolkien, Lewis, mythologies. I studied Anglo-Saxon and Old Norse, none of which I really retain too much of, but but I had a blast doing that, translating some Beowulf, which is always it's been on my like my bucket list since I was probably in my first English class as a undergrad. One day I'm gonna translate some of Beowulf, and so yeah, doing all that was just a ton of fun. So yeah, I loved it, and I the Tolkien community within that, like, university, it was all online, was really, like, close with a close-knit community, and going on social media, on and off since then, I've been, like, in and out, but the past couple of years, it's been so cool to be in the community again, just in the realm of social media.
Yeah, it has been great in the Tolkien community, and like I got started doing it, stuff on Threads, and then I went to TikTok and everything like that. But and I'm a social butterfly, so I just try to meet as many people as possible. Um, but I don't know if either of you noticed when and for those who were listening and not watching this, when Kelly said she studied at Signum University, my jaw dropped open because I love the Tolkien professor. When I first found him, I was like, I need to consume every single thing that this man has done, and I actually didn't know about Signum until a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
Um, I didn't really know it was like an actual like you can go study school, and now I'm trying to talk myself out of like doing it right now. Like I have to wait just because there's too much. I'm just doing too much right now. But yeah, I love Corey Olson, and Dr. Margie Park is awesome. Um, and we all know New Better. Not we all. We know New Better do better. He has the Signum Collaboratory that he does stuff there, which is awesome. I'm just plugging a friend real quick. Go to Signum Collaboratory, find New Better Do Better, and follow him. Um, but yeah, and then you said translation on Beowulf, and I was over here looking for my Beowulf, and I can't find my Beowulf. I don't know where it went, and I'm a little upset that I can't find my
A
Beowulf.
travesty.
I know it's
You
not the
have
Tolkien.
to.
I know it's not the Tolkien um, translation, but
Oh, that's fine,
I
I have
do
it.
have it.
Yeah.
You have the Tolkien one?
Oh, it's in the other room where my dogs are barking, if you can hear them.
Yeah, it's
Um,
all good.
yeah. No, I have several translations. Tolkien's is really fun. Um, but yeah, I to consume everything that Corey Olsen has done is quite the feat. So I really recommend it, but it's a little time consuming because he has the Exploring the Lord of the Rings, which I think that so it started in 2017. I have not kept up with it as much as, like, I would want to, but
Mhm.
I they're definitely not done with Fellowship. Like, they are maybe in Moria. I don't know, but, 5 years no, 5 more than 5 years later, they're still on Fellowship.
Yeah,
But
is that the same thing that he's doing with this? Because he's doing something with the Silmarillion too, right?
No, he does the Silmarillion seminar, or no, not he has a Silmarillion seminar, which actually was the first thing I listened to, from him and actually got me through the Silmarillion for my first, read of it. No, they do the Silmarillion film project.
That's what it is.
Um
That's what I was thinking of.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, where they build out they're, like, building out, like, fan, um, Silmarillion if it were, like, made into an adaptation.
Yeah.
And I have not I don't I don't really listen to that one, so I don't know too much about it, but I that is also very long going at this point.
Yeah, I went on the YouTube and looked that up, because there's someone on, TikTok, dearly departed TikTok soon, but who mentioned that Corey was doing something, uh, like the Silmarillion film project, and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." I went on YouTube, I found it. It's like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and I was like, "This one's gonna have to be a little bit slower because I just found it this past year." So,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
Alita's face, she's got a very shocked face. Yeah, I think the first like, the introductory episode, I think was, like, 2 to 4 hours, something like
Oh
that.
my god.
Yeah, yeah,
Corey Corey's just like lean ins to his inability to keep things short now, which is great. I
it's
love it. It's
hilarious.
chaos. It's total chaos. But he'll have like classes that he does, and he'll like intentionally like add on like 2 to 3 classes at the end of the session of just like you're not assigned anything, but I know we're gonna go over each week, and I know that we're gonna need those 2 to 3 classes. So he just like leans into it, which I think is fantastic. And let me tell you also, Corey will close down the bar with you because he's just like a
Really?
night owl. Yeah, he just does all this. I think he just doesn't sleep. I
That's
don't
one of my
know.
dreams is meeting Corey Olsen. That oh, it'd be amazing if I got to meet.
Oh, definitely
Yeah.
go to one of the moots that they put on
Oh,
because he's at
I'm going to Westmoot.
yeah, yeah, I'm sure he'll be at Westmoot. I mean, actually, I don't know, but
Oh, I hope so.
I'd be
I hope
surprised
so.
if he weren't. But yeah, he's a great guy, and I've known him for many years now. And yeah, absolutely. We just saw each other at San Diego Comic Con this past summer.
Yeah,
It's very cool.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Alita, I wanna ask you, when did you start doing fan art stuff? Because you brought up fan art earlier, and you
Um,
didn't just again, you did the logo for this, so I'm interested to know when you got into doing fan art, and it doesn't have to, like, be if it was Tolkien right away, just when did you start doing stuff like that, and, like, how did you like, was seeing the movie what got you to do fan art for Lord of the Rings stuff?
um, Probably, like, I've been doing it since I could remember, like and I got into it a lot in high school, and then, some of, like, the video editing stuff, but, yeah, it was always, like, a hobby, and then it turned, like, slightly serious, I started out as a design student and then went into STEM and whatnot, but, like, um yeah, one of my first renders was Minas Morgul in, um, one of our CAD programs, so,
Nice, how long did
yeah,
that take?
like, 20 hours.
Yeah, I get that. I'd love to see that if you still have that.
I don't, I wish I
Oh,
could.
no.
Yeah,
Oh, oh no.
So do you still do, like, computer stuff?
not as much.
More hand-drawn stuff now?
Yeah, like, I got into the digital stuff, like, just to kind of feel it out, but I don't know. I do like a couple different mediums. I really love like ink and watercolor, and I actually have like a bunch of archive fan art that I've never shared. From like reading the Silmarillion, and I was like doing field work in Alaska, and so I was like drawing like Muriel and oh my god, I'm gonna forget the names. I have one of Luthien and the Children of Hurin that were like ink and watercolor, and I really want to get back to that, but yeah, it's
If you wanna share that on socials, I'd love to see that stuff, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, don't feel like you need to just because I wanna see it, like, if you wanna keep it to yourself, that's cool, but if you wanna throw it out there, like, I'd love to see that. Who's your favorite to
That's so
draw?
cool too.
um favorite to draw.
Yeah, do you have a favorite to draw, or is it
Oh
just, like,
no,
however the mood strikes you?
it's like all mood based.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
cool. Nice. You're gonna say something, Kelly, sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you.
Oh, I was just enamored by everything that you were saying. That's so cool. And watercolor too is like it's such a beautiful but I feel like tricky medium. So that's really awesome. I think it
Yeah.
also like lends itself really well to Tolkien's works. I think
Oh,
he did some watercolors
He
and just
did.
like
I
it's
believe that
yeah,
isn't that picture of Sauron, the shadow
the
after the ring
the
is destroyed
reaching
reaching out, isn't that
the
watercolor?
I think it is, and some of his early stuff is his non-Middle Earth stuff is he has some watercolors as well.
Yeah, I'm currently going through his letters, and I really love the way he talks about, like, his art that he made for The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and how he he's talking about a publisher, not a publisher, an artist in America, um, or he was talking to the publisher about the art for the American editions of the books, and he's deprecating a lot in his letters, like, he talks down about himself, but, like, in such a, like,
Yeah.
like, jovial Englishman type way, and, it's, like, endearing and a little sad, but also, like, he said he felt like he wasn't, like, good at his art, and it's so funny because
Mhm.
now, like, I mean, I have Finrod's heraldry behind me that Tolkien did, and I will get this tattooed on me, but yeah, his art was great, and it's so cool that, like, his art inspires people like Alita um, to make her own art, and I love that. Um, yeah, like I said, I'd love to see some more of your work if you feel like sharing some.
Oh, man. If I ever find my old sketchbooks and, like, dig them out, definitely.
Yes.
Have you ever seen, Tolkien's drawings of, like, Rivendell? Because like, I love going back and, like, seeing his original concepts and then, like, seeing how they align, like, with the writing and how different it can be from, like, what we're used to in the adaptations.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
What's
sorry, go ahead, Kelly.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, what's really cool is, yeah, I've recently went through, like, The Art of the Hobbit and The Art of the Lord of the Rings, and actually read I've had them forever. But, what's really cool is you can see that when he was both writing out The Lord of the Rings and drawing it, in drawing and illustrating The Lord of the Rings, it actually changed what he ended up writing in the text because he would, like, start thinking about how it worked like the geography or maybe even just like the tower structure of something like Barad-dûr. And he realized that I think the best examples are Think actually. He changed that many times, and he would work out both in ink and in like paintbrush how he would write the story, and it's really fascinating. If you don't have your hands on those books, I cannot recommend them enough, because you can see his developing creativity, like, in working in tandem together.
Oh,
I have
cool.
I have the deluxe editions of The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, and Silmarillion with all of Tolkien's,
Yeah.
illustrations. Just not to pull that out and show it off or anything, but, as a Christmas gift from mommy and daddy because 'cause I'm spoiled.
Love it. Yeah, those are
Uh,
really cool.
so, what's what's either of your what's your favorite thing about, like, Tolkien in general? Like, anything from his stories, anything from, like, letters, or doesn't even have to be Lord of the Rings related. Um, like, I just like learning about people and how Tolkien affects them and what things they hold dear to them. Either one of you.
Um, I there's a lot. I think Tolkien's sensibilities towards nature, really speaks to me and something I care a lot about, and something he cared deeply for as well, obviously. And so I have grown up with his ideas of really being stewards to the earth around us, as something I hold in my daily life. So I think that is one of the most important things that anyone could take away from reading his works, and something that I love reading about. Um, I was thinking about what we're going to talk about in this podcast, and I have done several podcasts now where I talk about the goblins in The Hobbit, and, I guess I really love those too. I really love thinking about I mean, I guess it goes hand in hand with some of the, environmental messages because the goblins are so anti, environment and are machinery and control and power, um, using Earth instead of, really being one with Earth. But, I love talking about the goblins. I love, think about the inspirations for the goblins. I love thinking about Tolkien's inspirations on a wider level from the Anglo-Saxon poetry and texts that he was reading and consuming to even like King Arthur and Shakespeare, even though he would deny that he didn't really like Shakespeare, but he was clearly influenced by him.
Oh yeah.
I love looking at all of those things because those are all the great mythology and texts that I also love, and I think many of us do. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my bag.
Wait, Tolkien being contradictory? I don't think I've ever seen that in
Oh my
any of his
god.
works. That man went
The
back
way
on so many things.
so many things. The way that he literally talks about the inspiration for the goblins being uh like very influenced by George MacDonald. And then later in life being like, no, George MacDonald, who is he? I don't like him. Not that
It's
he
it's
really
it's
said
like
that,
the
but
it's like I don't write allegory, I hate allegory, but also, like, I totally write allegory, and I can't really help it. Like,
but I yeah. He's
man, I love you, but come on. I mean, it's
he's
so
just
human, it's like all of us,
yeah,
but,
absolutely.
speaking of your, the nature stuff, excuse me, I just was listening to because I do audiobooks, I have an hour drive to work, an hour drive back home from work, so
Mhm,
that's the easiest way for me to consume Tolkien now,
mhm,
um, especially because like, my ADHD makes me fall asleep when I read any book, which is ridiculous, um, but, I just went through the note about the was it the note about the Ents? No, maybe I saw a video. I think I'm doing this thing where I conflate a couple of things. I don't know if it was a note or if I saw a video where someone points out that, um, Beren had an army of Ents to go fight because, he was never seen by mortal men again
mm.
except when, God, what was it? The orcs come down to fight. See, and I have the worst memory. But anyways, it was so
So do I.
I'm pretty sure it's in one of the notes where someone asks I think someone asked him if Beren had an army of Ents, or he implied that, okay, so in future I will have things written down just in case. I'm just gonna have everything written down. I have books right here, but I'm not gonna. So we do this thing. I do this thing where like I'll be like live on whatever, like a TikTok or YouTube soon. And someone will have a question and I'll be like, "Oh, hold on, let me get the book." And it's like 20 minutes of me looking, and I don't want to do that right now, but I just had heard, and I'm almost
We'll find
positive it's
out.
in one of the notes. Like I'm gonna have to go back and edit in like a addendum. It was this note at this
Yeah.
time to this person. But I'm pretty sure it said something about Ben having like an army of Ents, which I thought was the coolest. Oh, it was in the note because it said something about how Orome the male Ents were more akin to Orome,
Mm,
and the Ent wives were
mhm.
more for Yavanna.
Yvonne.
And I
Mhm.
just thought that was the coolest thing. Like, hold on, how did I not catch this? That Beren like went and fought with an army of Ents. And like people ask all the time, like, what would you like to see in live action? I want to see Beren
Mhm.
go use an army of Ents and beat the shit out of some orcs. That's what
I
I
think
want.
that's yeah, I think we all want more ints,
Mhm.
like, just
Yeah. Oh
go
my
into
god.
battle.
What they did in Rings of Power with Winterbloom.
Yes,
Oh my
Man.
god. That was
feminist
devastating.
icon.
Yes, and the
Yeah.
way Orandir the way Ishmael Cruz Cordova played Orandir in that moment was perfect. It was all the people who, like, dislike Rings of Power, which, by the way, if anybody listening or watching, if you dislike Rings of Power, I'm sorry. I don't think you understand Tolkien because, like, the way that elf interacted with that Ent was absolutely perfect, and the lines that were spoken were so beautiful. Like
The way that he interacts with nature the whole time,
yeah,
because,
yeah.
like, in the first season, the scene with the tree, like,
Oh,
brought me to tears when
yeah.
they were like, "This tree has been here longer than you. It has a right to be here."
Yeah.
And, like, I wept.
Oh my god. And coming full circle where, like, Winter Blossom's like, "Hey, have you ever laid, iron to a tree?" And he's like,
Mhm.
"Yeah."
Oh,
Yeah.
I was
yeah.
like, "Oh,
Yes.
he still holds that regret."
He
Like,
knows the weight of it too, like, and she knows and he knows how much that hurt him and hurts the world around him.
Yeah. Like, there's a
mhm.
lot of good in Rings of Power, especially season 2, but that's probably in like the top 3. And it's like one of the most subdued scenes, especially once I mean, because the Ents come and piss off.
Mhm.
But after that, once Arondir starts talking to Winterbloom, and I can't remember the Ent's name that Jim Broadbent played. It's not important. I feel terrible for saying that. I will look it up while we do this. Um,
It's okay, we know the lady's name.
that's right. She was the more important one, especially
She
because
was
we
the
don't
mo
right, especially because like we have Ents doing things in Lord of the Rings. We don't have Entwives doing anything
Yeah,
anywhere.
yeah,
So yes, I agree, Kelly.
yeah.
Um, but Alita, what about you? What's one of or some of your favorite things about like things that you just like constantly think about when you think of Lord of the Rings or
Um,
Tolkien in general?
how they treat mortality and also the Akalabeth, and, like, I will never forget, like, once I could finally get into it, like, the Silmarillion and seeing just, like, how much this extended legendarium, like, was woven into Lord of the Rings, and I can't imagine, like, going and reading that, like, the original trilogy and not having those, like, little bits and pieces and then realizing there's this whole other, like, expansive age, actually 2, that we had, like, almost no information about, and I just, like, I love the deep dive. I'm not as much of an elf person, but I really love, like, how they explore, like, mortality and what people like, the lengths people will go to avert that, even, like, in the Third Age, like, where Gondor, like, all they do is, like, hold, the value of, like, their past lineage over, like, current grandeur, and they go without a king for, like, almost 2,000 years because, like, they held that past in reverence, and
So I'm gonna when David and Lee hear this, they're gonna give me so much shit. But
uh-oh.
I have to mention Finrod. Have you read Athrobeth? Finrod Andrath? You have not. Okay, if you want to know, if you're really interested in the mortality versus immortality thing, definitely find if you have it's in Morgoth's Ring. If you have that, it's
I
in. Do
do,
you,
it's on one of my
perfect, perfect,
yeah,
perfect.
it's right over here.
Perfect. So Athrobeth was supposed there's a note by Christopher, after the actual text of Athrobeth where he says that, his father wrote that it was supposed to be included as an appendix in the Silmarillion, and it's a conversation between Finrod and Andrath, who is a wise woman of the House of Beor, and they talk about the dichotomy between mortality versus immortality. And it's such a good read. It's so philosophical. It's incredible. It's one of my favorite things to read, honestly. So which by the way, me and Lee and Dave were talking about drinking games on this. I mentioned Finrod, so let's take a drink. Which leads me into my second question, Alita. When you first read Silmarillion, how did you feel about Elwë Singolo or Eluthingle?
Uh-oh.
No, it's okay.
M
It's okay. King of Doriath? Elven
Yeah,
King? Oh, you said you
I
didn't.
don't remember it, so
That's fair. No, that's okay. That's okay. And just for David, I have to. This is another part of the drinking game. Fuck Elu Thingle. Fuck Elwie Syndiculo. We take a drink whenever we say that. I'm sorry, Kelly. I
I
see the
mean,
face.
yes.
oh, wait,
Okay.
Single
Melly
Single, that's,
Tinkle and Melian.
Luthien dad? Or
Yes.
no?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, fuck him.
Okay, that's another drink.
I will say though, the Tinkle and
That
Melian chapter is one of the most beautiful things.
is a great chapter. That is a
Just saying.
great chapter. I will agree with that. Um,
But
I'm
everything that
not.
happens after,
Isn't
he
he,
will
like
dumb. He will
isn't he, like,
dumb.
so overcome with Melian's beauty that he just, like, stands in the wood looking at her for, like, 50 years, or am I
It's a
miss
couple of 100 years.
Oh my god, okay.
Yeah, it's like 2 or 300. Kelly probably knows better than I do. It's like 2 or
Yes.
300 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, as I
it's
recall, it's a few hundred years, and so his people are just looking for him the whole time, that they're
like
just scared
literally
they're like, "Where did our king go?"
Círdan literally wants so badly, or no way for those who want to listen, have his original Quenya name. Um, Círdan is looking for him. He wants so badly to go over to Valinor, but he doesn't because he's looking for Thingol for hundreds of years,
They're
and
like,
then
"We followed you here." Yeah.
he ends up being one of the last elves to leave Middle Earth. It's the saddest. It's the saddest. I'm gonna pour one out for Círdan. That's he's my second favorite in
Yeah,
Legendarium.
it's good.
So you don't dig on elves as much, Alita?
Not as much.
No, what's your jam? The race of men?
Actually, humans, like
Okay.
the Dunedain, and I love the oh my gosh, Istari?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I really loved like is it Unfinished Tales? Like the chapter where it just like elaborated on them a little bit more and yeah, I stand for Radagast.
Someone just sent me, I think it was Gloomweaver on Threads and Instagram, sent me and David a picture from Unfinished Tales on the Astari chapter, and she pointed out. Let me pull it up. She pointed out something really interesting that I had forgotten about, and I love when people do this when they're like, "Do you guys remember this?" Like, have you do we ever put this together? So it says, "Of this order, the number is unknown, but of those that came to the north of Middle Earth, where there were I need to learn how to read. I've only had 3 beers tonight. Let me do that again. Of this order, the Astari, the number is unknown, and then, but of those that came to the north of Middle Earth, where there was most hope, got it that time. The chief were 5. There was more than 5 wizards, and I forgot about that. I had like literally just read that a couple of maybe 2 months ago. I
I
my
remember
mind got blown again.
yeah, like for Rings of Power when it was like, "Who's the stranger? A blue wizard?" Whatever. I remember there being discourse on like, well, it could just be another wizard, another Astari, like, but we got Gandalf, it's fine.
Yeah, yeah. Someone in there's a Discord that I rewatch Rings of Power in, and we were talking about the wizard, whether be a blue wizard or whatever, and
Mm.
I'm talking about how great Karen Hinz is. Um, and then they're trying to like recast, not recast, but like cast if it is a blue, like who's his counterpart? Mads Mikkelsen. Kieran Hinz is so good at the crazy eyes. I want I want Mads Mikkelsen just like staring dead eyed at me. That'd be so
I
great.
am
If the,
so bad at actors, so I don't know who that
okay,
is, but
do you remember Hannibal? The show Hannibal?
oh,
That-
yeah, yeah. I haven't
he's
seen it, but I saw it. Yeah, okay,
he's
I see
Hannibal. Yeah,
promo. Okay,
yeah.
yeah,
He
yeah.
was also in
He exclusively plays like evil
Rogue
people,
One?
right?
Yeah.
no no because he's in King Arthur from 2004, which someone just rewatched and was like, "Oh, this is incredibly sexist," and I haven't seen it since like the early
The one
2000s.
with,
And I don't.
like, Keira Knightley and
Yes, 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 yes.
yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
also in. Mads is also in Doctor Strange. He was in
Yes,
Doctor
that's the
Strange.
one.
Yeah, he
Remembering
plays
him knowing
Caecilius.
Thor and like, no.
Um. Oh, that's because Thor shows up in that movie.
Does he?
Yeah,
Huh.
They're all a
yeah,
blur to me.
yeah. This is Tolkien on though. Screw Marvel. No, I'm just kidding.
Marvel.
I don't remember what we were talking about. Um,
No, yeah, you were
Blue
surprised that there was
wizards.
more yeah, more, like, being
oh yeah,
reminded.
that's one of the coolest things about the Legendarium is like there's just so many things, and like you either like haven't discovered it yet. Like there's a fair amount of stuff I still need to read. And I just keep inviting people who know more on the podcast just so I can learn things. That's the whole joke of this is like I'm acting like I'm having fun. I'm over here like taking notes. Like, okay, so I'm gonna learn about the Legendarium through people. Instead, I'm gonna have you guys read me the stuff.
Have you gotten to the Notion Club papers? Because that's wild.
No,
Oh
please
my gosh.
explain. I have not. Kelly's over here
I
nodding.
I'm
I
still
know
trying to,
Kelly.
like, understand it, but it was almost like a self-insert fan fiction with him and his, like, literary group, and there was, like, fake him and fake C.S. Lewis and a bunch of other people holding discussions on space travel and then, like,
Oh,
past
that's what he
life
mentions in the
memories to Numenor.
that's what he mentions in the letters,
Mhm.
that's what he's talking about. Okay,
Yeah.
that's wild.
Yeah.
So
That
that's what, I believe that's how C.S. Lewis's, space trilogy came about, is through those conversations with Tolkien. If you I actually haven't read all of them, but his space trilogy starting with Paralandria, um, actually has a character that he named after Tolkien, and, they were like they challenge each other to write, science fiction.
mm,
And so that's what C.S. Lewis did, and then Tolkien kind of went the time travel route, and that's he started thinking about how connecting Numenor. So that's kind of how he did that.
I
But yeah,
just
it's
heard
really
that letter on the
interesting.
way to work today. Okay, I
Yeah.
didn't know how to connect the dots. Like, as he keeps bringing up, like, people are talking about, C.S. Lewis book Numenor, and he and Tolkien's like, "Well, it comes from Numenore," and, obviously philologist that he was, he just explains the backstory. I also love how verbose Tolkien was, because as someone who talks a ton, which is why I like Threads, because I can, like, write, like, paragraph upon paragraph. Um, but yeah, I could not connect the dots, and I was just like, don't zone out, don't zone out, don't zone out," because like it didn't equate to anything for me. But okay, what was it called again, Alita?
Notion club papers or some iteration of that. I'm trying to remember. I think it's in The Lost Road?
Okay,
Maybe.
now I have to double check
I
my
think
stuff.
it's either in that one or Soren Defeated.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right on that
I
one.
have the lost. Oh, Sauron defeated
Yeah.
is I gotta see which because I've got the 3 volume histories. So I'm sure it's in there. Sauron defeated is in there.
Oh, like the big, big.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Oh
guess
my
I gotta
gosh.
take my hammer down and put it somewhere else. Well, I started like making a collection. Oh god, my book's gonna fall. Okay. So I started making a collection, and this
Yeah,
actually I've
yeah.
had these for a while. I just have not opened them.
They're so intimidating. When they're presented that way, they're so intimidating to me.
Well, so when Shibboleth was brought up, or Adar said Ellen Thila instead of Ellen Sila, um, Lee flipped out and made those posts on all the socials, and I was like, "What the hell is the fucking Shibboleth?" And I had like just started talking to Lee, and I messaged her and I was like, What
What
what is this
yeah.
about?" And she's like, "It's the nerdiest thing in the world. You need to go read it." And I was like, "Where do I find it though?" Like,
Yeah.
I'm an idiot not Googling over here. She's like, yeah, it's in Morgoth's Ring." And I was like, "Okay, now I gotta find out." So I'm like, I'm not gonna open these books up and find out what's in them. I literally just typed in Morgoth's Ring, and it shows like the editions and the books that it's in, and I was like, "Oh, it's in
Mhm.
the 3 volume histories. Awesome." So I opened it up and I read it, and it is the nerdiest thing I've ever read in my life. I love how nerdy it is. Have you
Yeah.
read it, Alita?
No.
Oh, it's the nerdiest thing in the world. So basically there's a schism that happens in Valinor because of a language shift, and Feanor makes it political because his mother's name before the shift was Therinde, like with a thorn, the th sound, and then the language shifts from a th sound to an s, and people start calling her Serinde, and he gets pissed because she's dead at this point, and so he
Like, them's fighting words.
no, not even a joke, and like and
It's
like
Painter, so
Yeah.
yeah, like everything's a fight. Everything's a fighting word to Feanor, unless it's "I love you," you know. Um,
But if you say it wrong, it's fighting words.
right, exactly. So he makes it political, and like in the shibboleth, it talks about how Galadriel goes out of her way to say "s" instead of "th" just to piss him off even more.
we love a petty bitch.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna take a drink for that because that's absolutely true.
Cheers to Galadriel.
Cheers to Galadriel, absolutely. Or Artanis if, you wanna be, what's the word, pedantic, which also in the letters, Tolkien calls himself a pedant a lot, and I kinda like that because 'cause I'm really pedantic when I know the rules. When I don't know the rules, I can't be pedantic. So,
So wait,
you know,
then is another version of her name like Galatariel or how did
so there's 2 versions.
oh
It's
my
either
gosh.
Altariel or
Altariel.
Alatariel.
And how does
Yeah.
that work in?
So, I believe Alatariel no, Altariel. No, Alatariel. I believe I'd have to get the shibboleth out. It says in there, but I believe the longer one, it comes from, Celeborn gave it to her. Yeah, it's the but it's the Quenya version of the name because Galadriel is the nickname that Celeborn gave her. That's her episse, which is the nicknames. Which oh yeah, that's where I learned about father names and mother names and epices, which I can't remember what those are actually
I
called.
don't
Like
know. All of those, I just am not super good at all memorizing all of those things. And David and Leah both are, so yeah.
yeah, yeah, they really are. I had a TikTok live yesterday, and David literally starts go. Someone goes, David, you should teach a class on Quenya, and he's like, oh, I don't know a lot, and then he like starts accidentally teaching a class on Quenya,
You don't
going into
know a
like
lot.
nominative and all this stuff. And someone in the comments goes, TJ, thanks for tricking David into teaching us Quenya. Because that's what I
Amazing.
do. I'll just goad someone into doing it. Whatever. But yeah, if you have not read Shibboleth and you have Morgoth's Ring, which you said you did because you said you have for
Yeah.
Aftermath, read Shibboleth as well. It's so like read Shibboleth and then go at Lee on any platform and tell her you read it and what you thought of it. And she'll be like, "Oh my god, you read it?" It's her favorite. It's one of her favorite texts. Yeah, it's hilarious. Do either of you have a favorite text specifically? Alita, you said you liked a Calibeth.
Oh yeah.
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 What do you like about that so much?
Um
Just the misery of it all?
basically like I feel like it was part of it was like Sauron really being in his own as like and showing like how terrifying and manipulative he can be and just like taking these little insecurities and leading to an entire downfall of like the greatest civilization of men in Middle Earth's history and that just like terrified me and I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is great. I wish it was longer. I know there's more other places, but, like, a Calibeth proper, I wish was a bit longer. Be
Mhm.
super cool.
Like The Fall of Numenor, the book, I'm looking at it on my shelf.
Mhm.
Like it's a little bit more fleshed out, but still, like I wish it was a
Yeah.
little more.
I have it. I just got it, but the thing is I've got so much to read, and I'm currently on the
That one,
letters.
the audio is good on that one. I half read it, half listened to it because I do a lot of audio as well.
Oh, okay.
And I believe it's is it Brian Sibley reading it?
I don't know any of the names except for Andy Serkis. Oh, which I wanna talk about Andy Serkis in a minute.
Mm,
Um, and speaking of audiobooks, and, who's the guy who did, Silmarillion who says Iluvatar? What's his name?
no, that's Andy Serkis.
No.
He says it like that too.
Oh, well, it's the British
Oh,
well, I guess
the
Andy Serkis is British too, but, the older British man, good god, what is his name? Why is my mind blanking so much today? Good thing I have my phone right next to me, let me just look it up.
Is
Um,
that how Andy got it? Because there's only a few things about Andy's narration that I'm like, "No, no," and that's one of them 'cause he says, "Iluvata." Like, I'm like, "Oh my
oh,
god."
no, this guy says Iluvatar. He, like,
Oh,
hops up on the A, the
yeah.
first A. God,
Yeah, I think he mispronounces a few things, I think.
yeah, the only thing
The
I
other guy.
okay, the thing I don't like about, Andy Serkis, besides I mean, so he makes Gandalf seem sinister when he shouldn't be sinister, like, I know there's times where Gandalf is, like, super, like, he's Gandalf, right? Like, he's
He
he's
he
gonna
plays an he plays an angry Gandalf, though.
yes, 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 and
Mhm.
I don't personally see Gandalf as angry at all times. and he made me feel like Gandalf was angry at all times. Like that turned me off right away. I listened to the whole thing because I had already paid for it, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna listen to it. But and then it gets to the Ganburigan part, and that part
Mhm.
is it already
Yeah.
has not aged well.
Yeah.
And he does like the noble savage voice, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And I was listening on 1.5 speed, and even that was really hard to listen to. Like I really
Yeah.
wish he had not used that voice. It's cool that he does voices. It helps to differentiate. I get that. But like when we got to that, I was just like, I want to skip this.
Yeah,
It's
that part is hard to
short.
listen to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually really hate his Tom Bombadil.
Oh, that's the other thing.
I
Yes,
actually
thank
really hate his Tom Bombadil. Like, he just because I understand that Tom sings everything, I get it. I understand that I think I mean, we can get back to Rings of Power if we want, but, like,
you.
I
Hey,
think
if this is in your heart, I want to
Read
hear it.
reading Tom Bombadil is so different than being around someone who is like Tom or seeing him on screen, like, he's so annoying. He is so annoying on screen, like,
What?
I don't think he was annoying in Rings of Power, but
Okay.
I think that, like
Except for episode 6.
except for when he
Oh,
literally said the Gandalf line,
Oh
yes.
god, yeah, let's talk
No.
about that in a little bit because I do wanna vent about
Yes.
that.
Um, but I think that he's such a difficult character to, adapt because someone who literally sings everything at you is just gonna kinda be annoying, at least to me,
Mhm.
and when Andy Serkis plays him, like, it's such a annoying like, he talks so slow, sings so slow, he sings everything, and it sings in, like, this, like, ups and downs, and I'm like, "I
And he
don't like
holds
it."
notes for so long,
He holds it for so long, I
and
have
I'm
to listen
listening
to
on
it on,
almost
like,
2 and
2 points. Yeah, I speed it up, I get through
yeah,
it, and I'm like, "God, move on."
yes.
Yeah,
can you
you're Tom in the book, I love Tom, so it's like, ugh.
can you speed it like so fast that he sounds like a chipmunk? Because I don't have the audiobook, but I feel like
It
that
doesn't
might.
change the pitch, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You'd have to record it and throw it through, like, an editing software.
Uh,
Martin Shaw is who I was thinking of, by the way.
Oh, yep,
That's actually how I first listened to the Silmarillion all the way through when I was an adult. Because well, not all the way through. That's when I started retaining things was
yep,
when I listened to it as an adult. Um, but I wanna get back to this to Bombadil in not in episode 6 yet, because I love Rory Kinnear as Bombadil, because a more subdued Bombadil who's also still really weird is the perfect Bombadil for
yep.
screen. And honestly,
Mhm.
it can translate to the like, I can read him that way now in the book.
Yeah,
It still makes sense to for him to be, like, weird and aloof and singing all the time, but he doesn't have
mhm,
to be screaming it at you like Andy Serkis does.
yeah.
And his accent was just absolutely to me, it was perfect. How did you 2 feel about him? In that,
oh,
and we'll get into episode 6 in a minute, but just, like, initial overall thoughts.
yeah, I loved it. I feel like there were some initial criticisms, like, he's not jolly enough, but I don't feel like that would have translated into screen, and I loved how they incorporated song, but didn't make it like musical theater. It's just like, "Oh, yeah, he's absent-minded and just constantly singing under his breath," and just, like, the general weirdness checks.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, you're doing magic and maybe it's like a little bit more overt than we're used to seeing, like you're transforming random objects into bread, but it's also Tom Bombadil, so I feel like he gets a little bit of a pass for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Kelly?
Yeah. I agree. I really love Tom. I was excited to see him on screen, and I was excited to see the version that they were gonna give us, right? So, like, I didn't go into it thinking that it would be exactly the Tom on the page because tonally, that Tom Bombadil that Tolkien wrote on the page doesn't fit tonally with the Rings of Power.
Right.
And if they tried to shoehorn it in that way, it would feel shoehorned. It would feel at odds with what the story that they were trying to tell, at odds with the character that he was talking to, which turned out to be Gandalf, which is a very important relationship, I think, that they were trying to portray on screen. So I think that they did it in their way, which worked really well with the story they were telling. I love Tom's ties to nature. I love that he was talking to Gandalf, and I one of my favorite things to come from season 2 is the Tom Bombadil song. It still
Yes.
brings me to tears because it's a song that's Tolkien's words,
Which
it's actually
wh
his words, and it's about
which one brings
nature.
you to tears? The main one
The
what's his
main
name
one,
sings?
but I
The
also
reprise,
Rufus Wainwright?
the
yeah, yeah,
Rufus
there
Wainwright,
is.
yeah. Yes,
Thank you.
that one, but I also love, love, love that there is a reprise that it's the 2 of them singing together,
That's my
and
favorite one.
this is what good adaptation can do. It can make you it's a sort of recovery, right? Tolkien talks about this in On Fairy Stories. Like reading a text, especially fantasy, makes it so that you can encounter the real world anew. You can have a sort of recovery in looking at the real world. And so you're returning to the real world with a new view, a new insight. And so this is what I think good adaptation can do is I will never read those words the same again. I will read them with this new meaning, this new communal meaning between two characters that I love so much, with this new like musical. And as much as that Tolkien loved music and song, I don't always incorporate my own music because I'm not a musician into the works. And so the Rings of Power did that, and I think they did it brilliantly.
Yes, that's so well said. Thank you both for being here, I really appreciate it. Um, where can people find you, Alita, if they wanna
Right.
continue the conversation?
Yeah, I have no idea what's gonna happen in the social media verse right now, so that's difficult. But right now, you can find me on Instagram, for Tolkien stuff. It's at Sticky Bibe, and I'm also on, was it Blue Sky? I think as just my real name, Alita Mao, and I sometimes post Tolkien content there.
Alright. Kelly, where can people find you if they
Uh,
wanna talk to you, continue the conversation?
I am on Instagram, the middle page. I'm also on Blue Sky as well, the middle page, I believe. But the username is like long. I don't know. I am also navigating new social media things, so we'll see what comes up. But yeah, basically, if you Kelly, the middle page, I'm sure you'll be able to find me.
Well, again, thank you both so much for being here. It's been a great conversation. I've had a lot of fun. We learned how to say cheers in, I believe it's Quenya. Uh, David and Lee looked it up. So, um, Elmian.
Elmian.
Oh, man.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Tolkien on Tap. Thank you for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow me on any of my social medias. I'm on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok at _Neej. Namarie.